In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to etch glass. It's something that when I first began, I thought this was really hard. The more I got into it, it's easy, and I want to show you how easy it is. So our materials are going to be a Cricut Explore, but if you have a silhouette, the steps are going to be approximately the same. You want some etching cream, and then you want something to put your glass etching on. In this case, I'm going to use a mason jar cup. The surface that I can put my that I want to etch is about 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And I bring that up because you don't want to go overboard, especially as a new user to this, with your surface area. Anything that is rounded, I will guarantee you will give you problems. It gave me a ton of problems just because I could not get the vinyl to stick down properly, and then when I pulled it off, the etching cream would mess up the surface a little bit. So I'm starting with something approximately squared. It's got the rounded sides, but the surface where I'm going to put the decal is square. And I'm going to show you how easy it is. So we're going to start just by adding some text. I'm going to go with the letter R. I'm a big fan of some of the fonts I have, so I'm going to use Impact here. It doesn't matter. You can use whatever you want. I'm going to move it into place just to be able to size this. So I want to go, as I said, I want to go about 2.5 by 3.5. I don't spend a lot of time here because, as you'll see on the next screen, it moves it wherever it wants to. So I'm not going to fight this too much. I'm about 2 by 3, which will be good enough. One other thing I want to caution you on is your use of fonts. What we are going to end up with is we are going to put our etching, and where we're going to etch is actually on the inside of this. So when we do this, you want to make sure that you don't have too many things that you need to cut out, because when you'll see when we remove the label, we're going to remove the letter and leave what's left. So if you're dealing with too much intricacy, you run the risk of your etching cream not applying properly, and then you end up getting frustrated. So our next step is just to hit go. I'm going to come back in a minute and show you how it cuts on the Explore machine. So now we're going to actually make the cut. So as you can see, I have my vinyl already loaded onto my cutting mat. So I'm going to simply load that into the Cricut machine. I already have my dial set to vinyl. So I'm going to quickly just go back into the Cricut Design Center software. I'm already loaded, so I'm going to simply click the button to load to get the cut head ready. I'm going to hit the cut button, and because this is so small, this should actually only take about 10 seconds now. So I am using the regular blade. I've also set this only to cut once. I found with this vinyl, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort from the machine. And I've also noticed now, as I'm going to eject the cutting mat, that as usual, when you actually need something, you don't have it. So I noticed that what I usually remove the inner part of the vinyl is with a X-Acto knife, but of course I don't have one, so I'm actually going to use a pumpkin cutting knife because that's all that I have. Now, I've actually done this many times, and as soon as I start doing it, I realize how dumb I am. Because we are actually going to be putting the etching cream on the inside, we actually want to remove the inner part of the vinyl. We don't want to remove the outer part. So make sure that when you're doing this, you're actually going to cut and remove the inside. So we want to take the letter part out. So again, you can use your fingernails if you have them. I'm going to use this small knife just to get this started. And as I peel this off, you just want to be careful. You don't want to go too hard. You'll see that I've removed the actual letter and I've left the lettering in. This part, what you'll see here in this light blue, is actually what we are going to be putting the etching cream on. So the other thing that I like to do is not leave myself too much extra space. So what I'm going to do is actually trim this up a bit, because as you'll recall, what I've said is in the beginning, because the mug is slightly rounded, as you can see here, the mug is slightly rounded. I don't want to end up with too much extra space. Otherwise, I'm going to be trying to wrap it around. So I'm going to grab some contact paper and I'm going to show you how to do the next step. So what we're going to do in this next step is we need to transfer our previously cut vinyl letter R onto some transfer paper. You can use contact paper. I've bought this from Amazon. I find it sticks a little bit better. So this is the key step. This letter will not actually stick onto our cup. As you can see, there's really nothing you can do with it. So what this transfer paper will do is allow you to transfer the image, the white part, onto our cup. So what you want to start with is by removing the backing from the paper. This white part is actually smooth. What you'll see with the lines here is actually sticky. So we're going to take this off. And now you want to make sure that you're holding your transfer paper, and we're going to actually stick that to our letter. You can see that I'm using this and it's a little bit larger. I just find that it makes it easier to deal with. What we're going to do is we're going to actually rub this down really hard. The key is getting a good transfer between the vinyl decal and this transfer paper. And what you can see is now this is on to the transfer paper, and this is how it's stuck on here. I always do it one more time just to be sure. Now here's the key step. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the vinyl from here. Now the vinyl comes away, and now we're left with the transfer that's got our vinyl outline on it. We are going to take our material, in this case, a mug, and what I really like about this is the grid lines on it. It makes it really easy to line this up. And all we're going to do is simply place our transfer paper and vinyl down onto the mug. Again, these are important steps. And if you remember from the beginning, I had said the rounding of the cup can actually affect how this sticks. So this is where you don't want it to be too big. And what I'm going to do is just rub this in the best that I can. Because we are putting our etching cream on the inside, getting the vinyl to stick all the way around is not of critical importance, but we do want to make sure that it's down as good as we can get, because when we peel this paper away, we want to make sure that the vinyl sticks. I have a trick. I found that using a plastic putty knife just to really get that down can often help. So now all we're going to do is we are going to gently pull the remaining transfer paper away. You just want to be careful. This is where you would have an opportunity to, if you're noticing any air bubbles or anything like that, this is where you would have an opportunity to affect that, push that back down again. But as you can see, without a whole lot of effort, we were able to get that nice and transferred on there. The next step, I'm going to show you how to put your etching cream here on the inside, and then we'll be almost done. So this step, we're finally going to get to what we want to do, which is to get our etching cream on our mug. What you'll see is I do not have gloves on. That's a very bad idea. This etching cream can hurt, so please make sure that you're using gloves when you do this. This little bottle, I think I paid sticker price $11. If you go to your favorite craft store, they almost always have a 30% or 40% off coupon. I would definitely encourage you to do this. The bottle is small. It does last for a while, but it's not infinite. I also have a little popsicle stick here. I found this is the best way to get the etching cream onto our decal here. I've seen some people use a brush. I found that it just doesn't coat as well as a simple popsicle stick. So I usually give this a little shake, and what I want to show you is this is a pretty full bottle and it looks just like cream. What you don't want to do, and this is where I made a mistake kind of early on, is don't go cheap on the etching cream because what you'll end up with is gaps, and you'll see where it etches and doesn't etch, and it just doesn't look like a professional job. So what you want to do is just dab this on here. And again, be generous. You can always save this again for later. And you'll see why it's important that we made sure that our vinyl was stuck strongly to it, because you don't want the cream to end up underneath the glass. Otherwise, it will begin to etch away where you don't want it to etch away. So again, you'll need a couple dabs, and you want to make sure that you fill in all of your space, all the part where the glass is. You want to go heavy. Again, do not get this on your hands. I've made the mistake of doing that a couple times, and it definitely does sting. And the bottle, I believe, says to give it about 10 minutes. There's definitely no harm in using it for longer. I like to go about 5 minutes, and then I will check it, and just to make sure that it seems to be working, and then I'll come back and hit it again. So hopefully you can see, I don't want to move this too much. Hopefully you can see how I have the cream on really thick, and it's going to begin its work. I noticed it's always good to kind of come back and double check yourself, because I noticed we were a little thin down here at the bottom. And I think I'm going to leave this for about 10 minutes to set, and then we'll be back and we'll see what happens. So it's been about 10 minutes or so since we've let the etching cream set. Doesn't really look any different. Because I'm cheap, I like to actually save as much of the cream as possible. So I'm actually going to scoop it off and put it back into the bottle. Because this was such a large letter, there actually is a lot of cream that we can save. Sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, I may just wash it off. So now I've got the bulk of it off. I'm simply going to turn the water on and rinse the cream off. This is another really good opportunity to get your hands with the cream on it. So because I did not have gloves on, this is going to take a little bit longer than I expected. So now I have most of that rinsed off, and I just want to use this as an opportunity to show you the next step, which is we want to get the vinyl peeled off. In this case, it's really sticky, which is good, which meant that I did a really nice job of applying the decal. And as I get the rest of this peeled off, you can see, because I used a mug that had a blue shading, you probably saw the blue shading that I had on here, but that's coming peeled off as well. Actually getting kind of a cool 3D effect here, which I did not expect to happen. And I'm simply peeling that away. You'll see, hopefully, that I'm left with my letter R. Super easy project. Did not take very long. I have a little bit of cleanup here to do, just to get some of that off. And I think total time, including letting the etching cream dry, was maybe 15-20 minutes. But this should be a good starting point for you to be able to work on your own projects going forward.